Hello, welcome to Meet the HR Show with me, Laurel, and today we're going to look about this industry, personal assistant. What does he do? What does his day look like? Well, stick around to know more. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
We are very glad that you could be able to join us today. Now, we'd like you to introduce yourself.
My name is Amos Motua.
Yes.
I'm a graduate of Desta University, Public Relations, and a minor in International Relations.
In our previous discussion, you told me you're a personal assistant, a political personal assistant. What does it entail?
Basically, a political personal assistant entails a little bit of walking around with the politician and helping him in as he meets the electorate.
Yeah.
Because there is part of what a politician ought to do is to listen to the people,
Yes.
take details and try where he can to meet the needs of the people.
Yes.
And in every of politicians' movement, there are people needing help.
Yeah.
People that need different types of assistances. Some people need bursaries, which is a very common need.
Yes.
Other people need to be helped to find out about something, because like in the setting that we are in, most of our electorate are we could say semi-elite. And most of the times the critical electorate are usually illiterate. And so my job as a political personal assistant is to help in taking details of people when they approach the politician, because there is never sufficient time to listen to every need.
True.
Until the end. Otherwise we would have to listen to one person for a day. So I will take details of those people, then follow up, see how much we can help, where we can help. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So how does your day look like?
It depends with the itinerary of the executive. Like when I worked for, because I once worked for a governor, and that required, and the governor I worked for is our alcoholic person. He's up early, extremely early, and particularly in a political office, it is not autonomously the control of the personal assistant on how the itinerary is carried upon. That like in a county setup, there is a chief of staff, there are the security people, so it involves different other people for the day to begin. So earliest in the morning, the first thing that a personal assistant ought to do is to know where is the boss. You oscillate around the boss throughout. So my normal day would require that I know where is the boss. Is he still asleep or is he awake? And if he's awake, are we following up on the itinerary? Because you would sleep knowing that this is what is happening the following day in the morning.
Yeah.
And right in the morning you're headed totally to a different place. Because again, in a political office, at times you get influenced with what the politics of the day is. You'd be wanting to go and launch a project, and then the party leader is expected within the county, and then things will have changed. So our day is set on the issues that are the upcoming issues on that very particular day. Your interest first is on the comfortability of the boss.
Yes.
Where is he sitting? And
is he okay?
Is he okay? Is the sitting well done? And then you ought to be equipped with necessities like a notebook and a biro and a spare biro.
Just in case something
Just
happens.
in case his biro stops writing. And then you make sure that you know where he's supposed to sit. There are exclusive meetings where you are not allowed or you're not required to sit in.
Oh.
And there are other meetings where you're required to sit in. And when you're required to sit, and for every meeting that whether you're required to sit in or not sitting, you have prior information. But on a basic situation, you sit where you have an eye contact with your boss. so that if he wants to communicate something,
He
well,
can.
yeah, he can. You decode every of the communication, every movement. So part of what you are required to know is actually to know how to decode sign language.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you constantly you must have your gadget, and basically you must keep an eye contact with your boss, because being a personal assistant and being a protocol person is more or less the same thing. It's more or less the same thing. Being a personal assistant or protocol is on basis of common sense and good manners.
Common sense and good manners.
Yeah, you must be very well mannered, and you must be able to use your common sense.
Yeah.
Because I'll go out there with all the knowledge, because I've been trained. When I became personal assistant, it is not just the requirement of the basic degree. There are other professional trainings
Like?
we attend at the Kenya School of Government.
Oh.
Yeah, protocol, etiquette, and event management. You must know how to, the order of precedence, and particularly for politicians, their titles matter.
Yeah.
If someone is honorable, you must address them as honorable.
Don't miss that one.
Don't miss that one, because you are likely to just lose it that way.
True.
Because those are the sensitivities that people go wrong in. And I grew in the knowledge of being a personal assistant and protocol. I also discovered that recognition is a basic need.
Key.
Yeah, and quite a basic need. So that is quite a very serious requirement.
Yeah.
And you're also supposed to, when I say open-minded, is I will have all that knowledge, then I will go to a setup where then the environment or that institution doesn't know all I know.
Yeah, true.
So you're supposed to be very fast, quick to be able to tell them, this is how you deal with my boss, this is how you deal with my boss. Of course, not making anybody's life hard.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just for everyone's work to be very easy.
Yes, I would want to make them not struggle. And I would also want to make them not make my boss to struggle, because that is my basic assignment.
Yes.
So that, and you are supposed to be communicative and instantaneous communication,
Yeah.
like literally real time. And you're also supposed to be very time conscious, because we would be having like 4 meetings in a day. And if we go to a particular institution and my boss is there, you know, like being an executive and a senior person, people want to take photos.
Yeah.
People want to have a word with him on
Talk
the side.
to him.
Yeah, while a meeting is ending, I'm already organizing so that the vehicles are ready so that we move to the next destination.
Okay.
And so you must look for a very good language to tell people that they won't really have all the time to want to take photos and to have any kind of discussion with your boss without really making them feel like you're being proud or you're being arrogant. And so you're supposed to have soft skills.
Yes.
At times you'll have to smile to someone, but still telling them time is up.
For how long did you study being a personal political secretary?
Assistant rather.
Yes.
I began learning when I was a little younger. I would say when I was in high school.
High school.
Yeah. I began just behaving like a personal assistant, chaperoning like my pastor in the church. And I desired to go where there would be politicians, executives, and just see security and people, what they were doing. And then I observing, yeah. I began creating bonds with people. Because like for the very boss that I worked for,
Yes.
I had known him when I was in my Form 2, when I was a student in Form 2.
So you started talking to him then?
It's when we struck the first
Meetup.
encounter. He came to the school that I was in, and I knew this is our member of parliament. So, because I was also kind of, do I say a celebrity?
Let's say celebrity during those times.
Yes.
Yes.
I had some aspect of celebrityhood because he came for an event where I was being shadowed. And I've just remembered some other bit. When I was a second year, Form 2 student, I had an opportunity to Barclays Bank at the time, now
Okay.
ABSA.
Yes.
There was a program they were doing for students from far-fetched or far-flung schools, and they were calling it shadowing. You would be brought to Nairobi to shadow a bank executive
Aha.
for like a week.
That's nice.
Yeah, so you were taken to high-end hotels. You would take dinner and meals with those people, and just fit in within their itinerary. Essentially, just trying to be made to think like an executive.
True.
So I sat for bank executive meetings. I was chauffeur driven within Nairobi for like a week.
Yes.
I was taken for cocktails and everything that executive people go for. So I think that was the first induction that I got into. Then I grew interest.
Yeah.
I grew interest, and I built on that. And then I met Professor Kibwana because he's the one that I eventually later worked for. And then I began looking for how I prayed about it.
Important.
Yeah.
Very, very key.
Yeah, really felt maybe if someday I work for this guy, I can learn.
Yes.
And because I also do emceeing, I MC events like weddings. Then way later, we met at an event, and then he felt like this guy is really doing a good job.
Yeah. It can be
Because
seen from the works.
I was never interviewed for my first job.
Huh?
I was just invited to work.
Please come to work on such and such a date.
Yeah, and I didn't show up when I was required to show up.
Why?
I will still think about many other things. At the time, priorities change with age.
True.
Yeah, so by the time the opportunity is coming, it didn't look explicitly like what I had prayed for.
Envisioned. It was way different.
Yeah, way different, and there were other competing priorities. But then later he insisted, I think you should come and work in my office. Then I went to his office when I was a second year student at Tista University.
During that time, as early as that?
Yeah. I began working when I was a second year university student. So I had to change my mode of study to part-time.
Okay.
So that I create time particularly to be available for a day or two in a week, because I really needed personal assisting, or being a personal assistant in protocol.
Yeah.
Is a non-job training thing. You can never learn
on
sufficient
job.
in class. Yeah, because there is no universal way of dealing with an executive.
Yes.
There are executives that are hot-tempered, others are very easygoing.
Yeah.
Like Professor Kibwana really is the kind of person that wants people to go to school. So he gave me the opportunity, but he still never wanted me to be too available. He kept encouraging me to finish school. And it is very easy for people with passion for politics not to finish your program when you get into politics.
True.
Because you get involved like
Busy.
perpetually. So there is never specific time for learning, and there's never sufficient learning.
Yeah.
You learn as you work,
Every single day.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned their secretary, you are like, no, personal assistant. Do you think that right now, with everything changing, the secretary part is slowly being transferred to being a personal assistant?
Not really.
It's just the same.
There is always sufficient work for a personal secretary who essentially sits in the office like throughout.
Oh, yes.
And that is the first phase. In like the situation, I mean the environment that I was in, there is a personal secretary, there is a personal security, there is chief of staff who also happens to be a secretary.
Again.
Yeah, but that is a secretary that there are several secretaries, and there are several personal assistants, depending on the nature of the assignment or job being done part-time. So the chief of staff would be a secretary in some meetings, taking minutes. But the very secretary, the executive personal secretary for an executive like a governor, is supposed to sit at the secretary's desk.
Oh.
to receive and exchange correspondences with institutions. And that is a person that checks. The personal assistant never really has time to check on the emails because the emails are usually too many.
Too many.
Yeah, you're acting on what has been marked as ancient, you know, and what there is on the itinerary. But when you have an itinerary, it doesn't mean that there is no overriding information. There are many other things, so the secretary will give you attention of things that may override on what there is on the itinerary, so that you consider changing, then you update on the boss, you know. So the secretary is more of secretarial work. If I want a document done, I will ask the secretary to type it.
True.
And then we check. I help them check if it's a template we have, and they write on the template. It could be a new document that the secretary has not interacted with before. And then essentially by the time a document gets to the boss, we shouldn't be, you know, talking about errors, format. That it's only maybe if the boss feels that this is not the right language or something, because at times, like for the boss that I worked for, is very, very articulate and I say shrewd with what wordings are you using. A personal assistant is
way different.
Way different. You become okay, fine. We never want to be called messengers, but you are you have many faces, because there are other things that the boss doesn't want other people to know.
Sure.
And then you are the one supposed to handle those kind of things, and you can never really be someone's personal assistant, particularly in a political office when you are not friends.
So you have to be friends.
Yeah, it's a basic requirement. Or for anyone wanting to have a personal assistant, you must pick someone who is a friend and who believes in what you are doing, so that in all of their work, effort, the spirit is like the spirit of the boss.
True.
It is never possible to have a personal assistant that doesn't have the spirit that you have.
True. Politicians are very busy. We started by you confirming, is the politician asleep or are they awake so that we can plan the day?
Yeah.
Is there a certain number of hours you're required to work, or it's a 24-hour job?
Essentially, when you get the appointment, it says you will be working from government hours is between 8 to 5. And then there's always a clause that seemingly is a clause that you work by when you eventually get a job. And any other duties that will be assigned to you from time to time by your supervisor. And I think that is what I worked by all my working time as a personal assistant.
True.
Because if you work within the 8 to 5, at times you could be in the office all day, you will not do a thing.
Zero.
Then from 5,
yeah,
you work the whole night, depending on what has come up. Because what the boss feels is the right thing to do per time is what you are required to do or to assist in. So then rendering it impossible to say you have a time frame that you are supposed to work within.
You might have different perceptions or different opinions to different things. You say that with a politician, if they think like this, you're close to think like that.
Yeah.
You might be having you differ in your opinions.
Yeah.
How do you portray it out, or how do you say it out without hurting the mheshimiwa's feelings and also being nice?
I would say that is one of the very sensitive areas, because it depends with what your passion is, for starters, in life. And like for me, I had a drive in sustainable development, and I became a personal assistant because I really desired to be a progeny, to learn. And most times I had problems with a few things being done the way they were being done. But obviously, it's a requirement for you to communicate in the right language.
Yes.
And I always believe that it is very okay to talk to your boss about what your feelings are. And a personal assistant should never fear to error, because it doesn't take too long for what you believe in to make manifest. So you can't pretend forever. So if you have a different opinion, you'd rather whether look for a language, and of course, depending on whether is it necessary. At times, some fights are not never necessary. You know, like if it's something personal, but if something that would affect negatively on you know, the performance of the boss, then it's always very important to be sincere. You'd rather be corrected than to sit in there pretending to be okay and pretending to be of the same spirit and of the same path until when, you know, because circumstances arise and the spirit of the man will always make man. Yeah, it will come out. It will come out.
These jobs, where are they advertised? People are looking for in the newspapers, on LinkedIn, on various social media. People are like, I would like to become a personal assistant, not just because, but to actually bring change. Because you say you love development, strategic planning, things that go in line with that. Where are they advertised?
It's a requirement for all institutions. I think it's a policy in most of the institutions to advertise for jobs so that people competitively get recruited for such jobs. But there is a secret that most people do not know.
Tell us today.
The secret is, and particularly for personalized staff, because personalized staff is like security, personal assistant.
That's very personal.
That is very personal, yeah. And like I said earlier, there's a requirement of being a friend to the boss. So obviously you could be too good in a thing, but if you're a stranger, because by the time you agree with the boss in the sensitivities, the personalities, it takes a while. It's something you build on. So I think from my perspective and my experience, if you desire to be someone's personal assistant, begin building towards that. And sometimes then you may want to know, what does the person like? Then you gravitate towards that. You must work around that person for a while, because it is never really possible for someone to work as a personal assistant when they have not had an history or an interaction with a boss. Like a total stranger.
That's so hard.
It's hard. So, not unless then you are a quick learner, a fast learner rather. And in that case also, for every boss, there's what they are looking for. You could be a very good person, but if you do not have the basic skills, like soft skills, do you know how to excuse yourself? Do you know how to interact with your language? Interacting with people, because an executive usually has so many visitors. How do you interact with people? Because are you warm around people? Because there'll be high-end delegations from different other places. Are you confident?
Very important.
Yeah, you must have confidence. And at times, it's a requirement to communicate to your boss real time. So if you do not have confidence, and it's not in every environment where you'll be working with your boss and it's an easy environment where you can just cross and tell your boss what it is, or pick the table phone and you ring them and tell them this and that is happening. Other times you are in an environment where it's actually labeled that you're not supposed to move up and about. And then there's also the conflict and that you need to communicate something to your boss instantaneously. So you must be able to know how to move around and communicate what it requires to be communicated per time. Be confident, as long as you're doing the right thing.
You're okay.
Wear your confidence and walk straight to your boss and tell them, this is the concern. You'd rather err in the side of caution. You know?
Yes.
And again, and when you are a personal assistant, you are supposed to be ready to make mistakes.
Ready.
Yeah, ready to make mistakes, because that's the learning process. You will do a thing from what you consciously think is the right thing to do.
True.
And then you'll be told it was wrong. Then you don't delve on that like forever.
You need to be ready
forget
to
and move on, because
yeah.
there will be write another assignment, and if you keep thinking about what you made a mistake on the previous thing, you're likely to make a mistake on the current job.
That's true. Now, have you ever felt like your career is stalling? It's like things are getting a little bit slow, or it's getting tough, or you're getting tired in your career?
Yes. Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Yes, and it is very easy because of the clutter, because there's a lot of clutter, and in a political environment,
Yeah.
you deal with a lot of complicated informations, and you also attract a lot of hate, and you interact with people, man of all people, prejudiced people, people that don't just like you, and you have nothing to do about it.
Yes.
And particularly for me, there's a time I really felt, because I enrolled to work for an executive when I was younger than now, and my personality was still being developed, and there are times I had attitudes,
Character development.
you know,
Yes.
and you meet people that feel you are, at times you are not appreciated, and at times you do not know what you have, the desire to grow, and you are really literally excited to know what the world holds for you. It is different to as a personal assistant when you are younger than when it is when you're old.
So it changes with age.
Yeah, some people prefer older older people, because older people are a little bit settled. They have seen many things. They have interacted with. The more you interact with people, the more you learn how to interact with people, and then all the attitudes go, because you eventually meet literally like all manner of people, and then at some point, then you get relaxed.
That's true.
You know.
So I'd like you to give us your parting shot over the time, what you've learned, and if someone is planning to join such a career, what do they need to do?
So if someone is really interested to become a personal assistant, basically build your confidence. Build your confidence and learn all that happens within that field that the particular person that because you cannot just be a personal assistant for across the divide. It is always very important to, do you want to be in government? Do you want to be in the corporate? It's different for government and corporate. Build your language so that you're able to express yourself, and be open-minded. Ask where you do not know. You can always learn. Every day is a learning day, and there is never a mistake too big so that you have not been able to learn a thing. Be sociable, interact with all people. Never miss an opportunity to pick someone's number, because you never know when next you require an information from that person. And above everything, trust in God.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much for having us, and it has been an eye-opener, because some jobs you're like, you need to have connections, but at a matter of fact, you start from early. You don't just get the job popping into inside. It has a lot of work. So thank you very much.
You can have the connections and not have any experience. So like if you got a car, and you can get a connection and get a car, but if you don't have a driver's license, you park in a ditch.
That's very true.
Thank
you very much. That has been
welcome.
Meet the HR show, and we've gotten to learn very, very many things here. Until next time, bye-bye.